Hi, everyone. My name is Ben, and we're here to talk about the Bible.
Yeah.
Wow,
And
so exciting.
so exciting. And you may be noticing that somebody's missing, and that's my dad.
Or no, maybe I think he just got smaller.
What? So my dad is in the Holy Land right now. So because we are recording these podcast episodes real time to
Yeah.
help the builders understand and just chew a little bit more on the talks that we're giving in the feast, we have to record it, and the time zone difference is just not great at all.
Yep.
It's either we record at 5 a.m. or we record at
Midnight.
5 a.m. for him, which is 11 a.m. here, or we record midnight for us,
Yeah.
which is like I think 6 p.m. there.
Yeah.
So
Which is hard for him because he's moving like from one place to the
Yeah.
other.
Everywhere.
exactly. So you'll just have to bear with the three of us. So hi, Quimon,
Hi, Ben.
and hello, Tish.
Hi.
Welcome to today's episode.
Woohoo.
Right. So what are we going to talk about today, Tish?
Yeah. So we're picking up from our previous talk where we talked about the priesthood and where everything goes wrong again.
Everything goes right first.
Everything goes right first.
It's
There's-
awesome.
Yep.
It's awesome. Like the 7-day purification
Yeah.
of the priests.
Yep.
And they're-
Everybody witnessing God's glory.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then you turn the page.
Yep. And the story's not done yet.
Story's not done yet. Yeah.
Yeah. So we find Aaron's sons, Nadab and Abihu.
Yeah.
They walk into the holy space and they do what God did not command. They use this strange fire. And
They did not do what he commanded.
yep.
Yeah. It's kind of like how Adam and Eve did not listen to what God told
That's
the two
right.
of them.
That's right.
Yeah. It's the only time in the story, like in Leviticus from chapters 1 all the way until chapters 10.
Yeah.
Is chapters 10 the...
Yes, chapter 10.
It's chapter 10,
So every time we hear, and they did as the Lord commanded.
Exactly as the Lord commanded. This is the first time in the story where they don't do that.
Yup.
Yeah.
And it's,
And it's horrible.
yep.
It leads to death.
Yeah.
Death inside the,
Death
Holy
inside
space.
the tabernacle, inside the most holy space,
yeah.
because of a bunch of humans thinking they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And it's horrible. It's horrible because they die.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's not great.
It's not great. This isn't how the story was.
This is the
Supposed to
furthest
be.
away from the ideal,
Right.
right? Because what God wants is for the humans to be able to dwell with him
Yeah.
and to flourish and to have life, right? But instead, here we have death.
It's like Genesis 3 all over again, where they finally get to enter this space. They get into the garden, but the humans fail again.
They distrust God.
Yeah.
They don't trust in God's wisdom and his goodness,
Yeah.
and they try to redefine it for themselves.
That's right.
But good thing the story's not over yet.
Yeah. I mean, there's still
It doesn't
a bunch
end there.
more.
It's like, and Nadab and Abihu were consumed by the Lord. The end.
That would be a bummer. Wala man lang to be continued or something like that.
No, but the story's not over. It continues. And
Yep.
what do we find next, Tish?
And we find next these bunch of laws, and we call them the purity laws.
Yeah, purity laws.
Purity laws. No, that's not really how people react.
Oh,
to
really?
me. Really? Yeah. I
No,
will-
but like, do you think that like that's what the author wants you to think? No.
well, for them, I guess, like, yeah. Maybe for them.
I'm just happy it didn't end with Nadab
Right.
and Abihu's deaths and
Right.
God, consuming them.
Right. But maybe for a modern reader, when they see another
Yeah.
list of laws, they're like, oh,
Right. Yeah, it's just like, and they're weird.
and they're weird.
This is like one of the weirdest sections of Leviticus.
That's right.
It's about periods.
Menstruation, that's
Yeah.
right.
It's about childbirth.
And skin disease.
Yeah, bodily fluids, skin disease, mold,
Yeah.
like things you'd never think. And these are the kind of things that you don't expect to hear in church and like a Sunday mass homily, like talking about.
Yeah, I guess it depends where you're coming from, because for some people, they expect that what you hear in church are commandments, diba? Are laws, and like what you should and should not do.
Right.
And like the 10 Commandments, they say don't kill my neighbor and things like that. But like seriously, like menstruation, like women can't do certain things because they're on their period.
Yeah.
At least the 10 Commandments were easier to get on board.
Exactly, because they're referring to moral or ethical things. But like I think at least to us, I don't see how like what you do on your period is more morally or ethically.
That's right. And
relevant.
And that's the point of these laws, that they don't really make you bad. I mean, if you're considered impure or unclean, it's not making you morally bad. It's just you can't enter the tabernacle.
And why is that?
Why is that?
Oh, well, why can't you enter the tabernacle if it's not morally bad?
Because death can't enter the tabernacle.
Right.
One of the things that we can see is that these different laws have something to do with life and death.
That's right.
And as you mentioned, Tish, death is not supposed to be present in the tabernacle where the hotspot of God's presence is.
Yep.
And so we have these laws that if it's connected to death, like how does it work? Does it avoid death? So that's part of what we want to get to talk about here in this episode.
Yeah. So just to backtrack, Nadab and Abihu did something stupid. They got drunk.
Yeah.
Right? They brought in strange fire. They did not do what God commanded. Right? They entered into the holy space.
And
in this state of rebellion. Right? And it brings about death.
Yes.
And so we have a big problem. And thankfully the narrative doesn't end there. But instead we get purity laws.
Yeah, because we now
we
need
get a set of
to
laws, and they're all related to
distinguish between
distinguishing
what is life and death.
What is life and what is death. I see. And that's important so that you don't do what Nadab and Abihu did.
Yep.
Okay. I see.
There are rules that are like that, right?
Yeah.
The reason why the rules are established is because someone broke them in the past. Like
That's right.
Like if you
Along
find
EDSA.
like if you find those, for example, if those low headroom markers like mag-ingat, baka mauntog, mga stuff like
so,
that.
meron lang nauntog.
I keep on thinking about that one person that parang, we should put a sign.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So
Okay. It's just like I don't like as a Bible nerd, I'm reading this and it's like, okay, yeah, makes sense. But some purity laws to solve the problem. But like I feel like every other person listening to this podcast might be thinking, and I the skeptical part of my brain is thinking also, how does this solve anything? Like what does, well, maybe we need to look at some of the purity laws also, because what are even purity laws?
yeah, well, when we start from chapter 11, we see the purity laws about the animals and that they can eat.
Yeah, food is life, so
Food is life. So there are certain animals where they can eat, and then there are certain animals that they couldn't.
right.
And mainly the animals that can be found in the wilderness. Those are mainly considered the unclean.
Okay, so animals in the wilderness are unclean.
Yep.
So interesting.
Yeah, and I guess it's just how they see the world during their time. It may not make sense to us,
Right.
but for them, that's how it is.
how did they see the world?
They saw that the wilderness is far away from.
Right. So for the Israelite life, for the average Israelite,
Yes.
right? They were living in this reality where they were blessed and fortunate to be camped around
God's holy space.
God's holy space, which is the tabernacle,
Yeah.
right? And so they were. It's almost as if, if you were an average Israelite, right? Anything outside the camp, right, is going further and further away from the hot spot of holiness,
Right.
and the hot spot of life,
That's right.
right? Because the tabernacle and everything that we've been talking about so far in this series is that holiness for them is about proximity.
Yes. Exactly.
I see. So eating these animals, right, that were from the wilderness,
They consider it
unclean,
not holy.
not holy.
Yeah.
It's not something that you're supposed to do. I think it's good that we started here because this is something that we see until now, right? I mean, like Jews today still eat kosher, and then you have
Right.
Muslims who eat halal, and there are different types of food
Right.
that are eaten by people coming from different backgrounds, these different religious backgrounds. And now we want to explore, okay, sige, for this particular people, was there a basis for that? Was it just, God decided pork bad, like beef good? Like, how does that work, diba? And so we were connecting it earlier to life and death, and now we're connecting it to the wilderness.
Yeah.
Right? Where different animals are present.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's
Right. So what can they eat?
What can they eat? They can eat sheep, right? Or goat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Sheep and lamb.
Yeah.
Sheep and lamb, they're the same thing.
Yeah.
Sheep and goat.
Sheep
right?
and goat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And basically, what they can eat are the things that they can offer to God.
They can eat cows.
They can eat cows.
They can't eat pigs for some reason.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they can't have pork ramen.
Yeah, they can't have tonkotsu ramen.
Yeah.
Or guanciale.
Or going. Oh.
And a delicious carbonara. That's quite unfortunate.
the only thing that's popping in my mind is sinigang. So
They can't have pork sinigang.
They can't have pork.
They can't even have shrimp sinigang.
yeah, shellfish is off limits too, right?
Yeah, so but they can have kansi and bulalo. Yeah, okay. So
Yeah, but basically, it's like
this is what today's podcast is about.
food.
What kind of food could
No, but
Jewish people eat?
For us, it's like, why even the food?
Yeah, like, why does God care about what I eat? Like,
Yeah.
what does it matter?
Yeah, but it's just a reminder for them daily that God's holiness affects their lives, even what they eat.
Right. And the three animals that they can eat, like in terms of land animals, right? These are the same animals that are used in the offerings in the tabernacle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we also have to consider that the food situation was different back then. Like, it wasn't like right now where you can just walk into a grocery store and get whatever you want to eat. And
Right.
most of what we eat right now are based on more practical stuff like diet and
Right.
how many calories does it have?
Yeah.
How much sugar does it have?
Yeah.
Like, these weren't exactly at the top of their minds. Like,
Yeah.
the food that they had to eat or the type of livestock that they had
Sure.
to raise also
Sure.
within their space, like
Yeah.
within
Yeah, practically. I guess that makes sense.
outside of the wilderness, within the human population, within
Yeah.
the community.
Yeah,
You
that's
raise lambs, you raise like
Yeah.
cows and
Right.
and so on. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And like to me, I was reading about this. Like the best explanation I've heard about why these animals were the ones that they were allowed to eat was because that was the food that God eats.
Yeah.
Or at least these were the foods offered as pleasing aroma,
That's
a
right.
sacrifice to Him. And so it's almost as if they're saying that every dining table is an altar where they get to eat with God. I think, didn't he put that in the talk?
Yeah, it is in the talk.
Yeah, that's why I was asking you. That's trying to make you say it instead of.
So sheep pala yung totoong food for the gods. It's not the
brownie.
it's not the brownie.
No, it's
it's,
not.
it's cattle.
Yeah.
Unless there's like bits.
Bits.
Never mind.
Wait, what?
Okay.
What happened to the bits?
No, there's like bits of sheep and cow in there.
And the food for the gods.
Yeah.
That'd be a very interesting pastry. Okay, so life and death.
Yeah. Aside from food, we also see that in childbirth, where
Which is weird. Oh, wait. I mean, okay. Do you have the verse on the childbirth one?
let me look for it. It's here. Okay. It says, if a woman becomes pregnant and gives birth to a son, she will be ceremonially unclean for 7 days, just as she is unclean during her menstrual period.
Okay, so why is giving birth
Unclean.
Yeah.
unclean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's messy.
it's messy.
It's
Wait.
physically unclean.
Let's just clarify this. So, the problem is you can't bring something unclean
Yeah.
into the tabernacle. That's what we're trying to say. And
Yes.
whatever, have we established what is unclean? We're just pulling out examples, right?
Yeah, well, we talked about how these laws are about them being ceremonially unclean. They can't enter the tabernacle. That these don't really make them morally bad.
Yeah. If we were just to like pull like big picture, what makes something unclean?
When they come into, like when they touch death, or when they come in
Okay.
close to death.
Okay, so when they come in close contact
Yeah,
to death,
yeah.
how does giving birth have anything to do? I mean, isn't it like
New life, right?
Yeah, you're
Giving
releasing a new
Yeah.
human into.
Yeah.
So why does that make you unclean? If we're saying that unclean
Yeah.
means death,
But actually,
or does it mean death, or just coming in contact with
Yeah.
with death, with like a
Yeah.
force of death, with
Yeah.
something that represents death?
yeah, because, yeah, childbirth, it does produce new life on the other side, but the process itself, the mother and the baby is right near that doorstep during childbirth itself. And that's why it became
I see.
unclean, because the
Right.
mother gets into close contact with death.
Yeah.
Right, because back then they didn't have like hospitals.
Yep.
Everything was done traditionally
Yeah.
and naturally,
Yeah.
and the success rate.
There's no big machines.
Right, the
No
success
pain
rate
relievers.
no pain relievers for birth was, for a successful birth, was actually quite low
Yeah.
for both the child,
And
or
the mother. Yeah.
Okay, so that's nice. I like how you worded it. It's the closest they are to,
Death.
yeah, giving birth is also simultaneously a time where the mom to be is closest to death.
Yeah.
And life is like leaching out of her, right?
Yeah.
That's the picture, right? I think that's the
Exactly.
picture for menstruation as well.
Yeah.
That-
and for bodily discharge, like all those things.
Because blood is life,
yeah.
right? And for it to,
You're losing
yeah,
blood.
exactly.
You're losing life.
Right, I see.
Yeah.
Wow, that makes absolute sense to to us, to modern people.
Yeah. When we're reading the Bible, it always helps to try to view it from the perspective of the people at the time.
Right.
That's right.
Like yeah, for example, like what you mentioned, that they didn't have hospitals back then. It was
Right.
very different. They didn't have the same amount of
Right.
like technology or medicine, and now we can just take it for granted that so this and that, she gave birth, and and like
Yeah.
of course, may mga complications pa rin right now with regard to those procedures. But
Yeah.
imagine 2,000,
how much
3,000
That's
years
right.
more
ago.
difficult it was.
Yeah.
Or well, I think the way you there's some women who go in labor for many hours.
Yeah.
Right. That I'm sure, like for the woman, that could never be that like that experience is something that is almost like going through the door of death
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
hopefully making it through and bringing out new life.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. Like so these things make you so these laws that we're talking about are helping distinguish the difference between. Sorry, I just keep getting lost. And like how does this connect to Nadab and Abihu?
Because they brought death into the holy space.
Right.
And that was
And so we need to know the difference between what are things that bring about death, or sorry, what are things that. Okay, so I think we need to establish something. So what you're saying is that these symbols of death are contagious.
yes.
We don't think about things like that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the closest thing I can think of is like, when you hear somebody in a coffee shop like start coughing,
Oh, yeah. Sickness. Yeah.
you're like, oh, better put my mask back on
Right.
and maybe try to not face that person or sit further away
Right.
from the air conditioning or something.
Yeah.
Right? We don't want to get in contact with sickness,
Yeah.
which is something we can't see. Like, we can't see germs.
You can't. Yeah. So it's kind of like that we don't want to be unclean and walk into God's holy space because
Right.
then we will be defiling
The Holy Space.
the holy space.
Interesting.
That's
It's just
right.
weird. I just like wanted to voice out that's weird.
It's weird. But I feel like we had that glimpse of what it would have been like during the pandemic,
Yeah.
where we couldn't even go out because we felt like everything out there is unclean.
Right.
When we
We bring alcohol and spray on everything and
Yeah,
Yeah.
even the packages that come from outside. I saw
Right.
this Instagram reel
Right.
where back in 2020 when you receive a package,
Yeah.
before you like open it,
You just douse
you
it.
like wear a mask, wear gloves, and then douse it with alcohol,
set it on fire.
set it on fire. Yeah.
There was a time before when like you have one person in the family who would go to the grocery to buy the stuff or sa
Yeah.
palengke, ganyan. And then when they would come back home, they would like
They have to take a bath.
take a bath before they even enter
Before
into
they-
the
such a
house.
great example.
Yeah,
So it-
exactly.
They have to wash themselves.
Yep.
Wait for some time and
Yep.
before they're purified and clean.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the picture, right? So
Yeah.
all of these things, they're not necessarily. I think you were trying to mention that at the very beginning, that they're not bad.
Mm-hmm.
However, and it's actually not. However, they're not bad. They're a state,
They're a state.
right? They're a state of impurity.
Yes.
And Leviticus gives clear instructions how to change from a
states.
state of unclean
Yeah.
to clean.
Clean.
It's doable.
That's
It's
right.
not like some impossible
That's right.
task, right?
Yeah.
You just have to take a bath.
Wait for 7 days.
Right.
Take
in
a
yung
bath.
quarantine period.
Quarantine period. That's right. They have quarantine
They
period.
have this is very relevant.
Very relevant.
Yeah. It's just that Leviticus, these chapters on purity are full of ancient symbols.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. And but that was their worldview. That was the worldview of their neighbors.
Yeah.
And if we're trying to read the Bible for what it is, right, we need to remove our 21st century lenses and love our ancient Israelite neighbor.
Yeah.
Try to make sense of this, even if it's difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah. Until today, we still do a lot of symbolic stuff, right? I think kasi like one possible response to what we're talking about right now is like does it really make a difference? Like what does it change anyway? But part of what is happening there, first of all, yes, but part of what is happening there also is we are living out a certain reality. Right? It's kind of like celebrating your birthday. There's not exactly anything
Special
like,
about your birthday.
oh, exactly. I mean, there's no scientific
Right.
basis for why your birthday matters, but you do it every year,
like,
every time. Like,
everybody asks you like so how do you feel now that you're X
Yeah.
years old? And you're
like,
well, the same, because I was just one day younger
yeah, we're basically
yesterday.
just counting the amount of times that
That's right.
the Earth has
Right, and we celebrate
gone around
that.
the sun
Right.
when we were born.
That's
Since
a,
we were
that's
born,
a great
Like,
analogy.
it's symbolic, yes, but there's also a reality behind it
Yeah.
that we are living out whenever we celebrate our birthday.
That the Earth
so
is revolving around the sun,
yeah, and
and we've accomplished one rotation around
yeah,
without
yeah.
dying.
Yeah.
And so that becomes, it there are meanings attached to that also, such as
Yeah.
growing old and wisdom and experience and so on. And in the same manner,
Yeah.
there are certain practices and rituals that we find in the book of Leviticus that they symbolize other realities.
Yeah.
Like that, the state of being clean and unclean and entering into God's presence, and in what state should we be when we come before the Lord, and in what are the things that we should be mindful of? What are the things that we should be thinking about?
Yeah.
Even on a regular basis when we do our regular stuff, or when we
Yeah.
come into contact with something related to death, which is for them happens more often than it does
today
with us.
Right,
Yeah.
because we live in a human-centric city. Like I can, like on Monday, what I do is I write down all my to-dos for the week, like assuming that I'm gonna live for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
Like I make plans 3 months from now.
Yeah.
Even beyond that, diba? When we ask
Yeah.
people to create like this
5-year plan.
financial, financial, like, ano ba tawag dito, vision, diba? 20 years from now, how much do you want to earn on a monthly
Right.
basis? Like, assuming that you're still alive 20 years from
Right.
now.
Yeah, but I guess if you're an Israelite living
For
in the
them.
wilderness, right, death is something that they come in close contact with. It's like when I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but when I was like 12 years old, I was in Vietnam with my family, and I didn't know that in Vietnam, when you use a pedestrian crossing street, cars don't stop for you; they just slow down.
Okay.
They just slow down and they're just gonna keep going. And that's what happened to me. I almost got run over
Oh
by
my
a car.
gosh.
Okay.
And I think the rest of the Vietnam trip, I was just thinking about how I almost died. But that doesn't normally happen these days. But you could say
Yeah.
that I came in contact.
Yes.
I brushed with.
And that's what they feel when they
Right.
come in contact with something unclean.
When you're giving birth.
When you're giving birth.
Or when you see like a carcass of a dead animal.
Yeah.
Right. That's one of the things that makes you unclean.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, this is kind of making more sense to me now.
For them, it's like almost getting run over.
It's almost
Right.
getting almost run over. Oh, there was another time when I was. I could just keep going. Actually, now that I think of it, I have been brushed by death
A lot of
a lot
times.
of times. But I was just thinking of the time when Crocs was a thing.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I was one of those people who got my foot stuck in the escalator.
Talaga?
Yeah, like it just ate up my foot, and I was stuck there for 1 hour,
Shucks.
waiting for the maintenance team of SM to disassemble the escalator, which is something they didn't want to do because
Wild.
it would destroy the elevator down. So I was just there stuck. I had no idea. Like at that moment, I had no idea if there was like a future for me. If I was just gonna be forever stuck to this escalator. Elevator
Right.
boy, escalator boy.
Right. So they're so everything,
Oh, okay.
the way they live their daily life,
Okay.
they had to be aware of that.
And that was because they were in a special predicament where they were the hosts of the very living presence of God.
Yeah.
That they've created this architectural mini cosmos,
Yeah.
right? what I mean by that is like mini cosmos.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
It's
How it's representative. Do you want to talk about that?
yeah, sure. The tabernacle is a miniature version of the cosmos.
Yeah.
The cosmos meaning the universe. So the tabernacle is like a mini universe that's recreating the ideal reality.
Yeah.
Where there is a space where heaven and earth are one, where God and man can dwell together.
Yeah.
So they were called to be the new humans, the new Adam and Eve,
Yeah.
right? To partner with God, to dwell with God, and to actually be in this strange and good and dangerous reality
That's right.
where God is dwelling
With them.
with them. And so they have to be really careful
Yeah.
with bringing death into the house.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this is kind of like imagine you have a house, like a really nice, beautiful house, right? And then you invite some guests over,
Yeah.
right? And they don't know about the no shoes in the house rule.
Right.
And it just so happens that outside the house is like this river and it's really muddy. And so they're bringing in their muddy shoes
Oh my gosh.
all over the house. Right? And it's this beautiful house, but like if people
White marble floor.
yeah, if people just keep walking all over, bringing mud into place,
Yeah.
it starts to stink. And
Yep.
and then
Exactly.
imagine if they actually went to the bedroom and just lie down on the bed with their shoes on, their dirty, muddy. That's what
Yeah.
Nadab and Abihu did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're playing hosts to, although the analogy is not perfect, but because it's in reverse, where the Israelites are playing host to God,
Right.
but they're the ones who are sort of trashing the place.
Yeah.
Or maybe a better way of saying it is they have a guest, a very important guest, and then they ask him, "Oh, you want breakfast? Oh, luto
Kuha
ka
ka na
na."
lang dun.
And they open the pantry and there's like nothing inside except for like
Yeah.
prem and which is fine, but you don't want to eat that every day.
Yeah.
Like not taking it, like, you know, the room doesn't have a bed, like and it's messy and dirty, and that's the picture that
Yeah.
these humans were so special that they were invited to host the very living presence of God,
Yeah.
to continue the storyline from Genesis, right?
Yeah.
Where because God has not abandoned his plan A,
Yeah.
right, to partner with the humans, and so this is the attempt,
Yeah.
and it's not working out, right, and so God is giving them instructions
Yeah.
on how do you keep the house clean.
Yeah. How do you make this work?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. It's still weird, but like I think with where I am with this, like logically it makes sense,
Yeah.
but like heart wise, it's just weird.
Yeah.
Like I want to read about how God's mercy and his compassion is you know, how he, as far as the east is from the west, you know, so far as he removed his transgressions from us.
Yeah.
Not the set of purity laws.
But isn't it in some way that these laws are God's?
Way of removing our transgressions
Yeah.
by teaching us wisdom
Yeah.
so that we can know the difference between good and
Life and death.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. I think that there's a shift in perspective there also. It's not that, oh, we have to get our lives together. We have to be super okay, not to be deserving of God's presence.
Yeah.
Okay, really?
That's not what we're. That's not what the Bible is trying to say. That's
Are
how.
you sure?
Yeah.
Because that's kind of how it seems
That's
like
how
when
it
I'm reading
seems like
it.
it. Pero yun nga, we want to contrast it. Like, for example, with their pagan neighbors, that's what their relationship with their gods were like.
That's right.
But here, what we find are not people trying to go up to the level of God. What we
No.
find is God's presence coming down here. And
Yeah.
in the same manner, it's not that we're trying to deserve the presence of God here, but that we're responding to it, and that
Yeah.
there are kumbaga, certain accommodations. I'm looking for a better word, pero
Right.
if God, as great, as almighty as He is going to be dwelling with us, then we need to be ready for it. But
Yeah.
just the fact that God is willing to come down here is a big deal. It's not
That's
something that you
right.
Right.
see a lot. I mean, when the other pagan gods would do that, they're often up to no good.
That's right.
They're often scheming, and you know,
Yeah.
and it's
Right.
not. Yeah, it's quite different.
Right. He's a God who wants to come closer.
Yep.
Yeah, and so he teaches us how. How can that be possible? And these
Yeah.
rituals, which might not make sense to us today,
Yeah.
Because they're ancient.
because they're ancient, and because we have different ways of expressing that. Also, it's not that it went away.
Yeah.
We still have moments of encounter with the Lord through like the sacraments or through gathering together in church and
Yeah.
worship, and we have these different ways of predisposing ourselves to come before the presence of the Lord so that we might receive Him. This is how we're expressing it now, and there was a way that they were expressing it before, and that's part of what we see in Leviticus.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. That's really fascinating. And I guess that's something that we need to continue to meditate on and
Yeah.
chew on. Because just like in Talk 4, the story isn't over.
It's not over.
So we get the set of purity laws, right?
Yeah.
But that's not the end all be all. You know,
Nope.
the God's instructions for how to relate to Him
Yeah.
is not just a set of laws, right? This is just a part.
Yeah.
Right? And so we're gonna
Yeah.
move to the next chapter, which is
The
back
climax of the story.
picking up with the narrative
Yeah.
and seeing where we left off.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll talk about that next week.
Ooh. Exciting.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, Tish. Thanks, Kuiman.
Thanks, Ben.
Hope you found this conversation helpful.
Yeah.
And not too confusing. We're trying our best. But Leviticus is really a challenging but
Yeah.
beautiful
That's right.
book.
And together we're gonna.
we're learning together. We're
Yeah.
reading this together.
Yep.
So hope you continue to join us in this journey
Yeah.
and this adventure as we go through the Bible. We'll see you next time.